Good evening. Pressure is mounting on the Premier with a victim of a chemotherapy bungle now saying Jay Weatherill could have deaths on his conscience if the state's health system isn't overhauled. The comments came ahead of a second fiery day in Parliament. The opposition again calling for the Premier's resignation over his handling of the failed child protection system. Gemma Chapman joins us live. Gemma, how much trouble is Jay Weatherill really in?
Beck, this would have to be one of the worst weeks of the Premier's career. By his own admission, he has failed South Australia's most vulnerable children. Yesterday, he faced a no-confidence motion in Parliament, and today there have been more calls for his resignation over not just child protection, but the chemotherapy bungle issue. But the Premier insists he's not going anywhere. Parliament in uproar and the Premier again under siege.
The leader will be warned.
This is absolutely disrespectful.
Member for Hammond is called to order.
Utter disdain.
A repeat of scenes 24 hours earlier. But Jay Weatherill is refusing to fall on his sword, despite ministers past and the former head of Families SA losing their positions amid the ongoing child protection problems plaguing the government.
But I've committed my working life to dealing with disadvantage, and I'm certainly not going to stop now, and I'm certainly not going to resign in the face of setbacks.
The Premier this week forced to disband the Education and Child Development Department he created after the Child Abuse Royal Commissioner highlighted widespread problems.
His failed system have put the children of South Australia at greater risk. There is no doubt about that. He must take responsibility for that. He must do the right thing and he must resign.
While in the midst of yesterday's question time, chemotherapy bungle victim Andrew Knox was waiting to meet with the Premier.
He's not convinced that enough hasn't been done, so I'm a little disappointed with that. I would have thought it would have been patently obvious at this stage.
I thought it was quite a cordial meeting, and I must say I'm surprised and saddened by the fact that he's felt that it was anything other than a good meeting for him.
Mr Knox's disappointment quickly turning to anger.
It was a meeting that would have been better for the victims if it didn't occur.
He says the Premier's position is untenable and he's demanding a judicial inquiry into the chemo bungle.
For him not to call a Royal Commissioner, a judicial inquiry, he then takes responsibility for what will happen again. And it will happen again, and lives will be on his head and on his conscience.
He's lurching from crisis to crisis. He's reacting badly. And the way that he has treated the victims of government failure with absolute contempt and disdain is now at a point where there is no alternative but for the Premier to resign.